Chapter 90. The Strange Captain 1. Sensing that the cultivation of these two people was at the 6th level of check condensation, Xu Qing felt that they weren't a threat. After some analysis, his current combat strength could allow him to kill them, so his heart was calm. The youth seemed to have sensed Xu Qing's gaze and instinctively rubbed his neck. His expression then turned a little solemn. He felt that this newbie before him was different from the others. The female cultivator beside him also sensed it. Her eyes narrowed and revealed interest. She licked her lips and said to the youth, "Watch door. I'll bring this little junior brother in." As she spoke, she revealed a sweet smile and personally led Xu Qing into the homicide department. "Junior brother, follow me," Xu Qing thanked her. The youth at the door shook his head slightly when he saw this scene. This flirt, is she going to ever change? Although this kid is a little different from the other newbies, it's hard to say if he can survive for more than 3 months in a place like the homicide department. At that moment, Xu Qing maintained a certain distance from the people in the homicide department. He followed the woman in front of him and walked into the courtyard. All he saw were disciples wearing gray doused robes like him. All of them were at least at the 5th or 6th level of check condensation. Among them, there were cultivators at the 7th or 8th level of check condensation. Some were cold, some looked gentle, some smelled of blood, and some carried miscellaneous items in their hands, looking very ordinary. On the whole, it was hard to see any uniform or despite belonging to the same division. Moreover, there was some distance between them, as though they were very resistant to getting close to each other. Xu Qing silently observed his surroundings. His gaze swept past the necks of every cultivator who passed by, and he made a judgment in his heart about their combat strength and whether he could kill them. This was his instinct. Very soon, Xu Qing became even more vigilant because he discovered that many people were hard to kill. There were even a few who made him feel an intense threat. At the same time, he also began to pay attention to the structure of the homicide department and quickly sketched it out in his mind. At the same time, the woman in front suddenly retreated and moved closer to him as she laughed lightly. "Junior brother, why do you always like to look at other people's necks?" As she spoke, the woman had already arrived beside Xu Qing. She lifted her right hand and was about to touch Xu Qing's chest when her expression changed at the next instant. She retreated abruptly and took out a few medicinal pills before swallowing them. When she lifted her head and looked at Xu Qing, her expression froze. "I don't like others getting close to me." Xu Qing calmly looked at the woman in front of him. The woman cast a deep glance at Xu Qing and nodded, putting away the thoughts in her heart. At that moment, she had already realized that this newbie in front of her wasn't simple. "Interesting, a person like you might be able to live longer here." After saying that, the woman continued to lead the way. This time, it wasn't that Xu Qing wanted to keep a distance between them, but the woman took the initiative to keep a certain distance from him and didn't continue to speak. Not long later, under the guidance of the woman, they made their way through 7 to 8 pavilions and a few small paths. Very soon, Xu Qing was brought to a large hall. The interior of the hall was pitch black and it was a clear contrast to the sunlight outside. "Director, a newcomer has come to report. His name is Xu Qing." When the woman arrived, her expression became even more solemn. After she spoke loudly, she lowered her head and stood there motionlessly. Xu Qing also had a solemn expression as he lowered his head and waited. A long time later, in the pitch black hall, it was as though 2 bright lights had instantly lit up. That was a pair of eyes. Its gaze penetrated the void and shot out from the hall, landing on Xu Qing. Being stared at by this gaze, Xu Qing's body trembled as he felt an intense pressure descend on his entire body. It was as though there was a ferocious beast that was so powerful that it made one feel suffocated in this hall. Xu Qing's hair stood on end and his breathing was hurried. His right hand subconsciously moved to his side and his body bent slightly. Fortunately, he quickly retracted his gaze. However, at that moment, before Xu Qing could catch his breath, the token in his left hand was instantly entangled by a strong force and broke free. With a whoosh, it headed straight for the palace. The force was so great that Xu Qing was unable to resist. He even felt that if the pulling force didn't land on the token, but on him, he would probably be directly dragged into the main hall. Xu Qing's forehead was covered in sweat. A long time later, a cold voice rang out from the main hall. "Go and report to the Black Team 6. As his voice echoed, Xu Qing's identity token and badge shot out from the main hall at an extremely fast speed, instantly approaching Xu Qing. Xu Qing's eyes narrowed as he raised his hand and grabbed it. The impact from the token and badge was extremely great and gushed into his entire body, causing his upper body to involuntarily sway a few times. However, his legs were very stable and he didn't take half a step back. This scene caused the gaze in the hall to light up again. It didn't speak and it slowly closed its eyes again. The female disciple at the side narrowed her eyes when she saw Xu Qing's performance after receiving the token and badge. His level of vigilance is comparable to the elders in the sect and he also has such strength. The woman blinked. Initially, after she sensed that Xu Qing wasn't someone to be trifled with, she had planned to not interact with him anymore. However, now that her thoughts had changed, she wanted to form a good relationship with him. Hence, she spoke up. "Junior brother Xu Qing, I'm familiar with Team 6. I'll bring you there." As she spoke, she gestured for Xu Qing to wear the badge. Xu Qing took a deep breath and wore the badge. He then cupped his fists toward the main hall and thanked the female disciple. Although he was young, his many years of experience made him very sensitive to the human heart. The attitude of this female disciple kept changing and he guessed the reason. In reality, that was indeed the case. On the way, the female disciple took the initiative to introduce herself to Xu Qing.